remember looking out of the window in the last place that we stayed and seeing a family sleeping on the floor on cardboard. And I remember looking at it, looking away and thinking nothing of it, and then catching myself and going, shit, look how desensitized you've become.
How important is travel to you?
Oh, it's like amazing. It's so important to me. I'll try and sub this down, but when I was little, we probably lived in about 10 houses in the space of like 3 years. You know, we moved around a lot by necessity. You know, we were in and out of council flats, state housing, all these different things. It was quite turbulent when I was little. So being independent was like, my mum used to say to me that when I was really small, I used to run away all the time, not like deliberately, like pack my bags and run away like when I was 2 years old, but I would just go for a wander and I'd end up down the street. She'd be like pulling her hair out, not knowing where I was. So I've always had, for some reason, this thing about moving and just getting on, getting away, exploring, doing something. And when I eventually was like old enough to go away, the first thing I did in like this one period of summer holidays at university was book a one-way ticket, because I didn't know what day I was coming back, one-way ticket to Australia on my own. So really like travel for some reason, and that like exploration is like ingrained in me. It's something that I've always really enjoyed.
Yeah. Did you mentioned the fact that you went traveling, was it for 6 months before you started working at Sky?
It was, so basically I went traveling twice. So I went traveling for 3 months. That was in summer holidays between my second and third year of uni. And then I went and did a proper round the world trip for 6 months. And that was, just before I started working at Sky.
Amazing. Where did that take you?
So that took me to, the first stop was South Africa. We did the garden route, flew in, went all along the south coast. Where did we fly into? We flew out of Johannesburg, we flew into Cape Town, and we got on this like hop on, hop off bus, and we did it for a month. Everywhere we did it for a month. So we went from South Africa to Australia to New Zealand down Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, then India was the last month.
That sounds absolutely amazing. Was there a favourite place from that trip?
Honestly, like for so many different reasons, they were all amazing. New Zealand was like everything rolled into one. Like New Zealand, you'd be on these, we did everything by like public transport and like travel buses, you know, where you like book a ticket, take a specific route around one country and meet loads of other travelers. It was amazing. And I always remember being on the bus in New Zealand, and we went from the South Island to the North Island. And in the South Island, it was like my favorite place, I think. You'd be on this bus, you'd be asleep, and you'd wake up and it'd just be snowy mountains. Like you could see the water coming down the mountains into this like completely clear lake with like pebbles along the floor. And it was like something out of a postcard. And every time I opened my eyes, I wanted to take more photos. We went to the glaciers, and we did like this trip where we had these boots with picks on the bottom of them, and then like axes that we were sort of like, you know, climbing things and whatever. And it was literally just this giant glacier that had like frozen. And we did skydiving. We drank loads. We made loads of friends. It was like the kind of active place to go was New Zealand.
Yeah.
There was this one trip that we went to where we went to this place called, it was the Poo Pub, I think they called it, or the Poo Party. I don't know why they called it then. I can't remember exactly where it was. But the task was to go into the shop and make a fancy dress outfit just from plastic bags. Okay. And I am like, I love fancy dress. And me and my friend Kirsty were like, right, there was a prize for the winner, and it was a canyon swing. So like literally, you know, like a bungee jump. It was like this kind of, you sit in this swing and you are flung from one side of the canyon, swung to the other. And I was like, Kirsty, we're going to win this. Like, don't worry, we're going to win this. So we went into this like DIY shop, and everyone, it was like supermarket sweep. Everyone was like, find the bin bags, whatever. So I was like, no. I know what we're going to do. And I don't know where this came from, right? But I went and got white bin bags, some wire and some duct tape and a black marker pen. and we became astronauts. I'll send you a picture of it.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, why around here, astronaut helmet, then just like wrapped ourselves up with like the white of the thingy, silver around here and around the rim, NASA written everywhere. It was like, it was, and we won it.
I was going to say, no way you're not winning with that.
We won it. Somebody dressed up as a vagina. That was particularly good. He came second. He was just a giant vagina. It was amazing. There were some really bloody good ones. There were some like quite average ones as well. A couple of cats, that sort of stuff. We walked in as these astronauts and they were like, right, you've won it. So we got our canyon swing. And I always remember that evening, they were like, right, the one thing that you have to do tonight, we're all like on this cider, like da da da. The one thing you have to do tonight is go and have a look at the glowworms. We were like, what? So you go down this little dark alleyway, completely pitch black. And if you think like in New Zealand, there's no light pollution, it's just black. So when it gets dark, it's dark. And these stars are like nothing you've ever seen. So as a group, we were all like walking down this like dark alleyway. And then you basically just crouch a little bit to get below a level. And the bottoms of the kind of the pathway just were illuminating with like green. And they were these little glowworms. And we were trying to take photos, but you can't capture it really. It was just one of those moments where you look at it and you're like, oh my God. And we had so many of those moments when we were traveling, you know, like in South Africa, the stuff that we saw, like we'd go to this place called Coffee Bay, where it was right on the cliff, and it was run by a completely indigenous group who they would make these huts out of like the mud, and then they paint them bright colors because it would stop the sun from heating them up. So they were like these really brightly colored little huts that they were living in, and they would make this amazing bread that was like sourdough almost, and do like dancing displays for you and stuff like that, and you'd learn all about who they were and what they were doing. And you know, we went to India as well, some of the experiences there were just incredible. When I think about all the different places that we went, there were so many of these magical moments. And I actually have kept a diary, and I haven't read it. So the plan was to read it after 10 years with my friend Kirsty, and it's been 10 years, but we still haven't read them. And I kept almost a daily diary. Wow. So I know that when I go back to it, there'll be moments that I forgot about. That I would so nice. Like, oh my God.
Is that a way of traveling which you'd recommend then?
Yeah. We had a budget of £1,000 per country. Some we went over, some we went under. And I borrowed some money as well from my parents and my grandparents. But yeah, it was like, we had to do everything on a budget because we couldn't afford to, but we were like, we refused to do it any other way. Like when we did India, when you get off the plane, you are offered the chance to travel India in a taxi. So where you have a driver and he will take you anywhere you want to go. It's so cheap out there. So you do that. I remember the whole thing for that trip, for that car, alone was £300, which at the time we were like, that's really expensive. But it was obviously. We decided to do it on public transport. So for the whole month, travel, food, accommodation, everything was £300. So that's how we decided to do it. But it was hard. It was really hot. We were going through Rajasthan at peak heat. So there were no other travelers because it was like the low season for traveling, which we hadn't realized. They want to sell you things because you're Western and they think you've got a lot of money. So we were getting plagued quite a lot. You know, we were sort of like, people were really having a go at us. And yeah, I found that quite hard. And that was the last part of the journey as well. So we were quite tired. But at the same time, there were things in India that I have never seen before and I will never see again that I just thought were just like, it blew my mind. There's a place beginning with V and I can't remember it now. Basically, it's on the Ganges, the river. And it's a burial town. So what they do is families will come to I need to remember what it was. People will come to this town with their loved ones that have passed away. They will wrap them up, they will lift them above their shoulders, and they will take them through the streets, and they're tiny little alleyways, the whole town, tiny little alleyways, with like fire sticks everywhere. It's incredible. And they will take them down to the Ganges and they will put their body in the river. And if their body, it's quite hard to see it, but if their body washes up on the side of the river with the town, they push it back in and it carries on going down the river. If it washes up on the other side, that's the holy side, you can't touch it. So we were doing these trips on the river. They take you on a trip to the river, and you were going past a wrapped up dead body on the left, which no one can touch because it's holy. And then on the right, you'd see kids swimming and washing in the river, same river. And it was, incredible. And you'd be going down these tiny little alleyways where you could fit 1 or 2 people, passing a cow. They're all holy out there. So there were cows everywhere. It was just, it was mad. We saw so much poverty in India that was very hard to take. And the thing I'll always remember is by the time we left, we became very desensitized to it. And I always think about that now. I remember from the first minute, my eyes were bulging when I landed. So we landed in Mumbai and we flew out of Delhi, and we did that whole trip through Rajasthan, around Rajasthan. And when I left Delhi, I remember looking out of the window in the last place that we stayed and seeing a family sleeping on the floor on cardboard. And I remember looking at it, looking away and thinking nothing of it, and then catching myself and going, shit, look how desensitized you've become. And I looked at them for ages, and I remember writing a chapter in my diary about it. So it would be really interesting to go back and read that specifically, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like a really important thing to do, especially in those formative years of your life, to see that kind of poverty in different cultures and just take everything in like that. But I suppose you just want to help everyone, but you can't.
Yeah, you do, and you can't. And especially with places like India, we were encouraged not to hand out money, because it means that they will continually think that you are a source of money. Also, there were a lot of scams in India. There were a lot of scams. Like we were taken in a car once because these guys, we thought they were taxis, but they were actually men that were trying to give us jewellery to take back to England. So it would have been illegal. We would have got caught on the other side of the plane, and the jewellery would have been on us. And we were in this car thinking it was a taxi, going up to some holy palace, the Monkey Palace, I remember. I think it was in Udaipur. And they just started talking to us about this jewellery. And I was reading Shantaram at the time, which is an incredible book. And there was mentioned something about that in this book, Shantaram, which is about an Australian convict who escapes prison and basically lives in India. I was like, oh my God, hang on a minute. And Kirsty had also read the same book, and we'd read other things saying, be careful of scams, this might happen. Anyway, we're in this car with these guys trying to get us to take their jewelry. We were like, fuck, we were like, can we get out? It was so dangerous. But at the time, we were like 20, 21 years old. Like we were just sort of going with the flow in the middle of this country that we didn't know. So yeah, there were loads of lessons. It was a huge, huge education for us.